time to rank the 3 upcoming legends based on different categories in a tier list. First up, we are going to discuss about the normal artwork, so no ink effect here. I think I will very safely rank Kinemon, Momonosuke and the Scabbards in place number 3. Nothing super special about the artwork, do not get me wrong, it is not bad by any means, but I just think it is pretty generic and can't go over the other two, simply enough. In the number 2 spot, I will place Luffy vs Kaido. I know, maybe surprising for a lot of people, maybe an unpopular opinion, the artwork still looks amazing. I think as far as versus artworks go, it is definitely one of the best. And even for Gear 5 artworks in One Piece Treasure Cruise, this is one of my favorite looking ones. I would say that the first ever one, with the release of the first Gear 5, the Sai one, and also the introduction of the character in the anime, where he is laughing and he has his hand over his eyes, that's probably the best one. But especially considering this is not a fully dedicated artwork to Luffy, it still looks very good for the Luffy side. And Kaido also looks nice. I kinda do not like some of the Conqueror Haki placements on Kaido, kind of hides the character a bit, so I think they're a bit weird, but other than that Kaido looks good as well. The portrayal they have over here with the two characters clashing is also good, and it is one of the biggest battles, right? Conqueror's Haki present and everything. I think on the Kaido side it is also tougher to place the Conqueror's Haki because it is a bigger character in scale compared to Luffy, right? At the end of the day, it is a huge dragon, but for the long anticipated Luffy vs Kaido unit, I am definitely not disappointed. I will still place it in number 2 though, because at number 1 I have Oiran Yamato. I absolutely love this artwork, from the vibrant colors of the petals to the highlights of her hair and the robe colors, then the combination of red on her horns, nails and her lipstick, to the gold she has on her headpiece accessories and even her weapon. Yamato looks amazing, the artwork is absolutely beautiful, the artist did an amazing job inspired from the Oda magazine art of this Yamato, transitioning it into the One Piece Treasure Cruise style. I absolutely love it, this is easily number 1 for me. Let's also quickly rank the artworks based on the ink effect they have, so the animated artworks of the characters essentially. Again, number 3 I will place Momonosuke, Kinemon and the Scabbards. Nothing super special here, we have the Wano pedals and a gold highlight around the characters, with the classic blinking of the eyes for some of the characters. I think it looks okay, but not something I would have in my home screen, for example. At number 2 I will place Luffy vs Kaido. I think what I mentioned before about the Conqueror's Haki perhaps taking too much on the artwork, especially on the Kaido side, intensifies a bit with the animated version and the ink effect on this character. Still looks good, portrays the first battle between the two foes nicely, and maybe the way they posted it on their social media doesn't do it justice because it cuts off some parts of the artwork, it is not the full artwork I think, and it also moves during the clip that Bandai posted. I don't know if I am the only one. Something off-putting is here, like maybe they cover up Kaido too much, maybe they also wanted to portray Luffy as the winner of the battle, so that's why that happens, I'm not so sure. But I still won't be placing it number 1, that spot is preserved for Oiran Yamato once again. And maybe it is because I love the artwork so much, because the ink effect is not anything super amazing, it is simple yet effective enough to boost the artwork and have the ink effect being a beautiful addition to your home screen, for example, the Wano pedals, the purple highlight around the character, the sun rays or the light rays or whatever they are, and of course the boost or kind of a yes effect on the vibrant colors. That is just my opinion though, at the end of the day art is very subjective, so maybe you just think Luffy vs Kaido with all of the Conqueror's Haki is just badass from the moment of the battle, so that is your number 1. Tell me in the comments down below. The final ranking will be their PvE abilities. I won't be talking about Pirate Rumble because I don't have the knowledge to properly rank them. I don't know the meta well enough. We are going to essentially discuss about everything else. And let's begin. In the third spot, I will place Kinemon, Denjiro and Momonosuke. They are a strength super type unit and I want to make perfectly clear, even though so many characters are present in the artwork, the binding ones essentially for this unit are Kinemon, Denjiro and Momonosuke. So if you want to use this unit as a crewmate and the Yamato, even though she's in the artwork, she can still be used because she is essentially not a part of the unit, only the artwork. The same goes with Raizo, Dogstorm and everyone else. Now this unit, even though 100% it is the unit that people want the least compared to the other two characters that were released, or are going to be released rather, it is still a decent unit. For their captain ability and generally their boosting, they are focused around strength, slasher and free spirit characters. I am not the biggest fan of the strength color simply because the scabbards, the half anniversary unit we have gotten back in the day, is again strength, slasher and I think free spirit, so I would have preferred a different color, but they do work with Oden that way pretty nicely, so I can understand it. I would have still preferred a different color though. For example, the classes would definitely be these ones. Even though they do boost free spirit units though, the more slashers we have in the crew, the better chain multiplier they provide, and the better attack boosting they provide as a captain as well. And they do make RCV and TND slots matching. The unique part about their captain ability is that if the crew in any way, either from our own crew, from a support, a special, or from the enemy, gets inflicted with burn, they automatically provide an attack boost for 2 turns and 2.75 times, which is actually pretty good, but there are not a lot of ways to actually inflict yourself with burn. I don't actually remember being any currently in the game, maybe I am mistaken. But if the enemy does it, you immediately get an attack boost, which is nice, but at the same time extremely niche. For their special ability though, they can reduce crew's special charge time by 1 turn, unfortunate 2 would be awesome, but 1 turn still good. And they can reduce despair and 2 healing debuffs by 6 turns. I think the healing debuffs are damage when you heal and RCV bind. Maybe I am mistaken, maybe it is reduced healing. I don't think so. I think they are the first ones, and either way, the healing debuffs are very situational, because even in quests where you might need to remove them, you might also be able to play around them. So, niche utility, the despair removal is definitely good, but I also do not like the fact that from their special, they can remove despair, but if they are captain and they get despaired, and in the preemptive, with the despair, burn is also inflicted, they won't be applying their attack boost from the captain ability. Definitely an issue with this unit, because immediately you need to pair them up with another captain that is able to completely resist the despair, so they can actually apply their niche captain ability mechanic of providing the attack boost because of the burn inflicted on the crew. Otherwise, you simply won't get it and you need an attack boost some other way, which is not tough to achieve, but still, for the specific mechanic this unit has, this is a problematic synergy. They can also, for utility purposes, manipulate adjacent slots only, including block though, to Wano. Because it is only adjacent, it is not the best slot manipulation, but they are making them Wano, which is a positive. And after that, essentially they can provide very good chain boosting. They can provide a chain addition for 2 different stages if your captain is Slasher or Free Spirit, 1.5 times for both stages, and you need to hit 2 perfects to get it in the following stage. But if the crew has some type of defensive effect, then they can also provide a chain growth boost, which is good but also situational because of the requirement. The captain class requirement is obviously way easier to achieve. For the rest of their abilities, they do have some territory stuff, which is a new mechanic introduced in the game as sailor abilities. Nothing super crazy, they are able to resist special rivers, which is good, combined with the special reduction they can provide from their special though. And then, from their super type, they can manipulate their block slots into TNT. That goes well with their super tandem ability because they are a super tandem unit. That ability is not bad, but I don't think it is one that you need to focus on and get multiple copies of them, or obviously spend your tablets on. I would keep my tablets, even though their tandem attack boost is universal it seems like, and not slasher or free spirit specific, at least at maximum level. And from their super type, if two of the specific characters they list are in the crew, and these are majority of the characters included in the artwork and other allies obviously of the scabbards, then they can manipulate their slot to TNT as I said, but on top of that remove 2 turns of damage nullification from the enemy, which is very good if needed. It's not something appearing in a lot of quests, but can definitely be helpful. And then for 3 turns, they can boost the base attack of Strength, Free Spirit and Slashers for plus 1250, which is a very good buff because it is also for 3 turns of duration. The thing is that of course makes it vulnerable to beneficial effects removal in the preemptive of the main boss. If that is a thing, then you obviously need to probably maintain this boost for the final stage if it is necessary there and not in a previous stage. Overall, this unit is definitely not bad. It does have some synergy issues as I mentioned, and because the other 2 units I just simply think are stronger, I can't put it higher. This is definitely not the unit you should focus on for the new Super Sugo Fest that is coming up. Let's conclude the ranking real quick because obviously after spot 2 we know spot 1. I will place Yamato in spot 2 and Luffy vs Kaido predictably in spot 1. I mean, come on, it is 2 characters in 1. So essentially you get 2 different units for only pulling 1 unit, and they're also kind of broken, but we are going to talk about them next. Let's break down Yamato first. Let's talk about her captain ability. She boosts Free Spirit and Cerebral units. So, without a doubt, 2 of the best classes in the entire game, but that also comes with disadvantages. What I am referring to specifically is that if 6 Free Spirit characters are on the crew, she reduces bind and paralysis by 3 turns. That is not bad having utility in your captain ability. 3 turns of removal is not the best. Double Yamato captain though can help with 6 turns of removal. That can definitely be beneficial to completely remove a debuff even. And then if 6 cerebral characters are on the crew, she reduces special rivers and despair by 3 turns. So if you combine both Free Spirit and cerebral characters, 6 of them specifically in the crew, with double Yamato as captain, she removes 6 turns of bind, paralysis, special rivers and despair. That is very strong, but also extremely specific to do and limiting to your team building, even though, as I said, Free Spirit and Cerebral, 2 of the best classes in the game, with plethora of units and a variety of them with different abilities and stuff to choose from. While I call this a disadvantage mainly because you need 6 of a specific class, at the same time the diversity Yamato can provide is also a big advantage, because let's say we have a unit that can remove Special Bind completely from their captain ability. You do not always need that. Here, where we have 6 different debuffs that can be reduced or removed to choose from, we can just build our team around the specific debuff. So if in a quest you need to remove paralysis, you will build around the Free Spirit side of things, and maybe even double Yamato as captain to remove 6 turns of it, or reduce it for 3 with 1 Yamato captain and completely remove it with a support or another perhaps special. They would never allow this Yamato to be super flexibly remove all of these debuffs for 10 turns and with no requirements. That is very obvious, I think, to everyone, but I would have at least preferred not 6 characters of a specific class, but 5 instead, so we have that freedom to perhaps use an off-class character. I understand it though with the territory being introduced as well and Free Spirit being the main class for a lot of characters in this new Super Sugo Fest. Both positives and negatives for the utility of Yamato. The flexibility is a big plus for sure, but at the same time the number of turns and the fact that you can have your team building options limited can be found as a disadvantage, always depending on the quest of course. Now she boosts attack on free spirit and cerebral characters depending on how many status effects are on the crew, and that can be bad or good status effects, I am pretty certain, so you don't need to of course leave debuffs on your crew like attack down that you want to remove, obviously. But if you have positive status effects, like for example auto healing or end of turn healing rather, I'm pretty sure it counts towards Yamato having an increased Captain attack boost. She immediately transforms RCV slots into Wano, which can definitely be positive when for example RCV slots are treated as non-beneficial from an enemy debuff, and then she also makes TND and the int slots have matching slot effects, which is awesome. She also allows overhealing from her Captain ability up to 2 times maximum HP, which is an awesome combination with other stuff she provides from the rest of her abilities. With her special, she can actually allow us to choose a status effect placed on the crew and remove it by 7 turns, which is amazing. Essentially what Shirahoshi Mansery can do, but only for 7 turns, not 10, still a very decent amount of turns though, and instead of choosing 2 debuffs or 2 status effects, we choose 1. We have seen the power of the Shirahoshi Mansery removal, especially lately with all of the new debuffs being introduced, but we don't have specific characters or specials that can remove the debuffs. Using Shirahoshi Mansery's removal as a jack of all trades is so strong, because yes, we are losing the 3 turns, because Shirahoshi has 10 turns of removal, Yamato has 7, and the 1 extra debuff. But keep this in mind, right? We have a character that can also offer utility from the Captain ability under specific requirements, of course, but can still provide that specific utility. Then can provide damage boosting on top of the 7 turns of removal with her unique attack boost based on the damage reduction shield the crew has, which is unique boosting by the way, mainly on Yamato units. And then requirements appear again. If 6 free spirit characters are on the crew, they get an attack boost for 3.25 times and an ore boost for 1.75 times, which is very low but can be overwritten. I guess it's more here in case you can't get an ore boost and Yamato can provide it. Obviously it's not good, but I guess it's a plus in case you can't get an ore boost, that is the main way. And then if 6 cerebral are in the crew, so you can provide a color affinity boost and buff already existing attack boosts and ore boosts. I think the free spirit boosting is better because of the attack boost. If you do need the color affinity, it's fine, but the color affinity boosting compared to the attack boosting, it is overall a worse type of boosting. We also have to consider that if the enemy is not shy, so Yamato doesn't have color advantage, hence he cannot enable the color affinity boost, then we don't only need 6 cerebral characters, we also need to get the correct color of cerebral character to allow them to get the color affinity boosting, right? So it becomes, I guess, more of a hassle to team build around that. What I would have personally preferred for this Yamato here is if 6 free spirit characters are in the crew, she still provides the high attack boost, low ore boost. But if 6 cerebral characters were in the crew, I would have preferred for her to reverse the boosting that she does for free spirit and provide a high ore boost and a low attack boost that can be overwritten. In my opinion, that would be better than the color affinity boost. She can also actually extend the duration of her unique damage reduction attack boost if damage reduction and end of turn healing are at the same time applied when her special is launched on our group, which sounds kind of an absurd combination, I guess, of status effects. But first of all, they can help her overall damage because her captain ability will provide a better attack boost to our units. But on top of that, she can provide both of these an 80% damage reduction specifically, and 10,000 HP of end of turn healing from her EX Super. So immediately she allows the requirement here to be met, and her unique attack boost that is tied with damage reduction and will be 1.8 times, since the damage reduction from her EX Super is 80%, to be extended, which can definitely be good for damage, but also allows double Yamato as captain to gain more value, other than her, of course, reducing debuffs for 6 turns instead of 3. For the EX Super access though, we need 3 specific characters in the crew, but the Straw Hats are present in those requirements alongside other popular characters with a lot of units in the game, so that is a positive. Other than the end of turn healing and the damage reduction from her EX Super, she also can actually boost Free Spirit and Cerebral characters' super type effects for 3 turns, and then she heals 20% of crew's maximum HP too, which of course goes in great combination with her allowing overheal from her captain ability. She also has some territory stuff in her sailor abilities, so for example, for the Free Spirit and Cerebral territory, she can reduce Special Bind on these 2 classes and Despair for 3 turns, and she reduces Special Bind on this character for 3 turns only otherwise. That can definitely be helpful, and we also see for her other sailor ability that she can help with damage a bit, for the same territories of course, of Cerebral and Free Spirit. And finally, she also has a Rush Sugo special, which gets better the higher level you have it, as with every single one of these abilities, and can definitely be beneficial, especially combined with Chain Boundaries. It's not the best in the game, but it's definitely pretty good. So many things to unpack with this Yamato. Sorry if I went on for a bit longer than anticipated with this unit specifically, but I really like her, and so many different combinations can be done with her as well, so she does have the flexibility, even though she does have her limitations and requirements of course, as we saw. She can definitely be a valuable unit for different boxes for different reasons as well. That's why I think she will be a good unit, and of course the 7 turns of a chosen status effect removal is extremely strong, as Siragosi and Mansery have been showing us for years now. And I have to also mention that because of the nature of this unit and these types of units in general, she definitely has a lot of future potential, she's future proof, and she might even gain value as better units come out in the future, just because of her potential flexibility. So at the end of the day, maybe she is even more valuable for a more developed box than Kaido vs Luffy would be. But let's not overestimate her for now. She's a good unit, that is for certain, and it is now time for the main event. Luffy vs Kaido, essentially 2 units in 1 versus unit. We are not going to compare them and decide what side is the best, that will be situational, but we are going to look at them side by side, because even though they are different, with different abilities, colors and even classes, they have similarities in the way they work. So let's get to it. Luffy boosts crew's attack by approximately 6 times based on the number of Free Spirit characters on the crew. The minimum attack boost is 5 times, and boosts crew's HP by 1.3. Have in mind, Luffy doesn't only boost Free Spirit characters, but his attack boost increases with the more Free Spirit characters in the crew. Same happens with Kaido, but with driven characters instead of Free Spirit. Luffy provides Q and RCV slots as matching, and then Kaido only TND. If 4 or more Free Spirit characters are on the crew, Luffy reduces burn and bind by 10 turns. Good utility, but not the best combination. I'm not the biggest fan of the burn removal, bind is good. And for Kaido, we have special reverse and paralysis by 10 turns, a much better combination. For Luffy, if an attack boost is placed on the crew, he immediately increases it, and Kaido does the same, but if increased damage taken is applied on the enemy. If 6 Free Spirit characters are in Luffy's crew, and someone activates a special to reduce enemies' resilience, damage reduction, threshold or defense up, Luffy adds one extra turn to the duration reduction. So for example, if we have a Zoro that removes 5 turns of threshold, with Luffy as captain and 6 free spirit units in the crew, he will remove 6 instead. For Kaido, if someone activates a special that has the effect of being blocked by immunity to certain status effects, Kaido allows them to ignore them completely, which is crazy strong for damage, meaning now the crew can apply defense down, weakened status and stuff like that. Both sides also have an action special. Luffy's, if we hit the excellent and he is captain, again action specials don't work if the unit is friend captain or helper captain, then Luffy will increase the slot boosting as well, not only the attack boosting, and add 2 extra turns on the removal instead of 1. And of course the removal still applies to resilience, damage reduction threshold and defense up. And for Kaido, if we hit the excellent on the action special, his captain attack boosting will increase and he will now apply end of turn damage, which is awesome to deal with resilience in a lot of situations, which of course makes these units even better as captains, the action special, than they already were. And I have to admit these are 2 very strong captain abilities for 2 essential units in one. Kaido's captain ability better for overall damage, but even though Luffy's can still help with damage, it is also very helpful with utility if we want to remove extra turns from the enemy's defensive effects. If, for example, in specific situations we want to use a support to remove extra turns of threshold, instead of doing that, we can just use Luffy's captain ability. And for people with not so well developed boxes and a lot of supports missing, for example, this Luffy can be huge help as captain. Going over the rest of the abilities for Luffy, for his special, he can actually remove 10 turns of attack down, which is crazy good. He also takes advantage of the new territory feature in One Piece Treasure Cruise for the Free Spirit class specifically, so the more Free Spirit units in the crew, the higher the attack boost or the attack output they can provide, and the less the damage taken. He provides a 2-turn conditional attack boost versus defense down or increased damage taken enemies, and the multiplier depends on essentially the quality of the hit from the action special, so the excellent is the maximum at 3 times, and then the miss is the lower one at 2.5 times, which is still actually pretty decent. Not really a reason for a miss to happen though, because even if we skip the action special, we at least get a great. Then he can extend the duration of the normal attack boost, or boost and chain lock if these 3 are present in the crew when he activates his special. The extension is for 2 turns, and that can be extremely useful to carry over buffs and avoid interruptions or intimidation in the final stage. Won't always be useful. He can provide chain boundaries himself, which is awesome, and very good chain boundaries as well. And finally, if 6 free spirit characters are in the crew, he buffs the overall damage by a little bit, which essentially, alongside the territory and the utility coming from his captain ability, are incentives to use more characters that are free spirit with this Luffy, that's obvious. And of course he has a versus ability too, since he is a versus character. He's also Q, by the way, I don't know if I mentioned it, but you need to gather 8 or more RCV or Wano slots. Not the easiest to do, you need to team build around that to get access to the versus ability, but I'm happy that they dropped the turns from 10 that we saw in past versus units to 8, at least that is something, not the turns, the slots that need to be gathered actually. And we have a very strong ability here. He can apply increased damage taken through immunity, immediately enabling his conditional attack boost without needing to actually depend on another character to apply the defense down or the increased damage taken. He can do it on his own, but it's not the easiest thing to achieve in every single team. If you can't achieve his versus ability, you need to use him with a character to enable his conditional attack boosting, otherwise it will be useless. And he also increases the base attack boosting from his versus ability, which can help with damage of course, and that is essentially the one very strong side of the versus unit. Then we have the Kaido special. 10% of enemy HP reduction, not that impactful simply because it can be stopped by now. He changes the right column slots to tandem even through block, very good, and the left column slots through block as well to Wano, very good slot manipulation that Luffy misses. And then he either increases the already existing attack boost to 3.5 times, or, if an attack boost is not present, boosts driven character's attack for one turn based on the number of status effects applied on the enemy. And that is exactly why from his captain ability, he allows status effects to ignore immunities and be applied. Not only can that help us with conditional attack boosting, it can also help us with getting a higher attack boost from Kaido, the maximum being 4 times, but not very easy to achieve. If 6 driven characters are on the crew, he reduces all enemies' threshold and damage reduction by 10 turns. Truly amazing utility for a Kaido unit, and on top of that he applies increased damage taken to the enemy himself for 2.25 times, very good for a multiplier, and he can completely ignore immunities of course. Now if 6 driven characters are not on the crew, the utility from 10 turns for threshold and damage reduction goes to 6, and the increased damage taken multiplier reduces. But still, the effect does not completely disappear. So it is truly a very good effect. His special is definitely strong. For his versus effect, he has the same requirement as Luffy, RCV and Wano slots to be consumed for 8 or more, and his activation is to drop resistances on the enemies and further increase the crew slot effect boosting. Not the best, but it's not bad, so it can definitely help with damage, but I would say that Luffy's kit altogether is a better versus effect. And the final thing about this unit is that one side has super tandem, the Kaido side, and the other has final tap. Luffy's final tap is one of the best final taps in the game. It is pretty similar to the V2 Straw Hat Crew one, so it is extremely strong. If you build around free spirit characters, this Luffy can be so powerful. And for the Kaido side, the super tandem is good, can also increase the damage output of RCV, TND and Wano slots, which of course Kaido provides with his special alone, so that is good, but I just don't think it is as strong as the final tap of Luffy can be. The higher the level, the better the damage for both of these abilities. What a strong character Luffy vs Kaido is going to be. Absolutely broken for so many different boxes, that is for certain. They can provide so many things. Luffy with his utility, but also a Luffy with chain boundaries again, and conditional attack boosting. Not the traditional attack boosting and orb boosting from Luffy. And then Kaido, the damage powerhouse. He can provide so many different ways of damage, but also allow status effects to apply to the enemies, enabling perhaps conditional attack boosting, and then the utility for Kaido is also surprising. That concludes my rankings though, and my ultimate analysis and breakdown of every character. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did, I would really appreciate it. And now we are ready to pull in tomorrow's Super Sugo Fest. As always, thank you so much for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next one.